are some of the differences working in America, working on a studio film, and working in Denmark?
Well, I would say the biggest difference is that you're saying hello to 500 people every morning in America, and as opposed to 30 in Denmark. If you're doing a big Hollywood production, it's enormous. But having said that, once you start working, you still sit like 5 people around the table and discuss the scene. You try stuff out, and the working process is pretty much the same in many ways. And they do listen to us. They do collaborate as well. So it's not been that big a leap in the sense of the working process. Obviously, it's a different thing to make a film in a language that's not your native tongue, but that's just something you have to adopt eventually.
As an actor, what is your process? Because you bring a great deal, and maybe this is the dogma training that you had at the beginning with your generation in Denmark. What is your process for making the character as real as possible?
My process is very much in the script. It's very script-based in the sense that I do like that everybody's on the same page once we start working. Meaning that there's a huge work before we start shooting for me, with the director, with the scriptwriter, with the other actors, that we have a fairly good idea together where we want to go with this film, where stuff is happening, what's the curve for this character, what's the curve for this character, and that will change, and we will come up with new ideas once we are on the set, and that's cool. I love that. But as long as we know what we are trying to aim for. That's very, very important for me to know that it's not ending up wherever. I think that I can help the process if I know where the director wants to go. If I don't know, I can't really be helpful. Then I'm just running around as a blind man. So that is very important for me to nail that a couple of months before, I guess.
Now, when you started out in Denmark with Refn and the Pusher films, a lot of the time, and you were trained as a dancer and an acrobat, right? A gymnast. There's a great deal of violence and physicality and athleticism, and then you also, as you were trained as an actor as well, brought this kind of intimate reality to it. And very few actors have all of those things in one package.
Well, yeah. I'm not super aware of what tools I'm using at what time, but I do believe that what I do love about film is the fact that you can make the audience come to you. You don't have to go to the audience, as opposed to theater, you do have to do that. And I guess as a dancer also, I liked to be present, but not necessarily giving too much. Didn't always work, depending on the size of the stage. But there was something about that I found intriguing, and watching that as a dancer myself, watching other people doing it, I found really inspiring. So I guess it's a combination of being able to fill the room and also make the room very small. That doesn't sound too crazy, but there's something in there that I unconsciously work with, I guess.
And when you did the silent role with Refn and Valhalla Rising, how did you manage to handle that without dialogue?
It was actually tougher than I thought, because also physically he's exploding once in a while, but that's merely to survive or to eat, or whatever. And the rest of the time he's very restrained. He's almost zen, and so there's a lot of energy in me as a person, and I had to restrain that the whole day, and that was quite frustrating. But it also became interesting after a couple of weeks. It became like a kind of meditation for me. So just try to be and not to do, so it was quite provoking, but it was also very interesting work.
At an interview that you gave here, you got a tribute here at Telluride. Congratulations. Well deserved. You basically said that Taxi Driver was your favorite film.
Yeah.
Could you explain what it was about that De Niro character that affected you so much?
Well, I've always been a great fan of De Niro. I think he's doing something that is very personal. At the same time, it's, in my eyes, in my point of view, is very different every time. But I can recognize something of him in there. But the character in Taxi Driver is something. It's a character that is in many ways dislikable. We don't like him, but we stay with him constantly. So eventually we have to embrace him a little, and the more we do that, the more, not necessarily understand him, the more we go down a path that we wouldn't have done with him, right? And I thought that was the film gave me an enormous dilemma. I was not sure exactly what they wanted to tell me, and I thought that was so powerful. Instead of giving me an answer, they gave me a lot of questions, and for that reason, it just opened up my eyes to a different way of making films.
Well, now that your career is hitting its stride, if you like, has Hollywood come calling even more aggressively than they did before? Are you getting offered more parts?
I guess so to a certain degree, but it's hard for me to tell because when I'm working, I'm not necessarily hearing about people who wants me to work for them in the same period. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to do a TV show now.
Hannibal.
An American one.
Starting on Tuesday?
On Tuesday, tomorrow.
In Toronto?
Toronto, yeah.
Tomorrow, my God.
Tomorrow, and I look so much forward to that. It's a different step in my life, and for my family as well. We're moving for the first time ever outside our own country. So that's interesting, and so I'm booked for a while. So I guess if Hollywood is getting more eager to call me, it's too late.
No, it'll only
well, I mean,
enhance.
I still got time to work. I got a couple of months. But
no.
I mean, yeah, I mean, in that sense, I think I get the best of the two worlds. I mean, I'm still Danish. People still occasionally call me and ask me if I want to do a Danish film, and they also do it over here. So it's.
And Refn's career is taking off, so you can always work with him again.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully one day. I mean, he's finding his footing as well as a man who's working over here, and I think he deserves it so much. And if one day he calls me, I will be ready.
Do you have any explanation for why Scandinavian cinema in general, it's not just Denmark, is doing so well with, and not only, I wouldn't even say cinema, I would say culture. I would say books, literature, cinema, all of it.
I think there's a strong governmentally support in art back home. I mean, we are making, as a small country, we have 5 million people, we are making about 22, 23 films a year, and they are all financed, half of it from the government, meaning there is a certain liberty to do the film you want to do. We do like people watching our films, don't get me wrong, but if you're making an art house film, it's not a disaster that, let's say, 100,000 people see your film. That means that out of those many films, you will find people who are very personal about the films, and they find their own language. And for that reason, we get a big variety of different films. I think that is one of the.
One of the things that people like about Telluride is not having to do interviews like this.
I don't mind it. I love talking about my work. It's nice talking about something you're proud of. So.
Yes, well, Cannes was an extraordinary experience. I was there, and I saw you. I saw The Hunt, and that must have been a rather challenging role because you were really playing a very passive character. Can you tell me something of what was difficult about that?
Well, I guess that if when you look back at the thing, and we discussed it a lot, and I mean the character in The Hunt is a passive man, but at the same time, when I look over it, and I would be much more upfront with a theme like that, personally. But when we talked about it, I was like, no, not really. I mean, I would be in shock as well. The second he knows what's it about, he addresses the problem. And the second he knows who it is, he addresses his best friend. But before he knows of it, he's outside the door in the Kafka world. So everything happens like in a grotesque, surreal world for him. And I'm not sure I would have reacted that different. But what I do think is that people find it provoking that it's happening to him, you know, and that's the case why they find him passive. But when you look at the film, he's actually not so passive.
I see what you're saying, but perhaps he seems to be perhaps a bit of a victim.
Oh, he's an
Someone
enormous
to
victim.
whom terrible things are happening.
Well, obviously he is a victim, but he's also part of that himself, as you say, because he does not necessarily stand up at the right moment. He's doing it at the wrong time, the wrong timing. But having said that, if you're accused of something as horrible as that, it doesn't matter what you say, you sound guilty. You know, if you scream, if you fight, if you smash a window, you're guilty. If you don't, you're guilty. So it's a lose-lose situation. He's believing in the civilization of mankind, and he believes that justice will be served. They will figure out tomorrow that it was not me, and I will go to the cops, and he does that, and everything will be fine. But it is not fine. This is not how the dice is falling, and he's very disappointed with civilization, I guess.
And his friends, his closest intimate friends.
It's not that he doesn't understand him, I guess, but it's the fact that he's marked now, and it's that we don't have enough water in the world to get rid of that mark.
We carry that forever.
Yeah.
So when you were at Cannes, in your wildest dreams, did you imagine that you would be going up and accepting the Best Actor award?
Maybe. Once we saw the reactions, we saw the reviews coming, clicking in, we knew that this was something. People embraced it, and we saw a small opportunity of going away with something. Whether it was for the film or the script or for me, we didn't know. So I was there to represent the whole film, and Thomas, because he was back home having a baby. Well, not him, his wife. And so I was getting ready to do the acceptance speech on behalf of Thomas. So I had 20 steps to rephrase everything going up there, and I didn't mind that.
Congratulations on that. But it's not going to come out until next year. So we were all thinking it would be possibly part of the award season here in America, but now it'll be postponed. But now Royal Affair enters the picture.
Well, that's nice. I mean, it's two very different films and two very beautiful films, I think. And it's nice that I don't have to to fight for a place in the run-up. And then hopefully The Hunt will have a chance next year, even though it's coming out early. I hope that people won't forget it because it's a fantastic film. So now it's all about the Royal Affair. And I embrace that because I think that's a beautiful film as well. And it's something the Americans can identify with and also still have the Danish touch to it. So hopefully we will end up having a good year in America.
Well, the Royal Affair is another great role. I mean, because the doctor who ends up falling in love with the Queen and taking care of the King, who is bizarrely childish and a little loony.
Yeah.
But it's all working in a funny way. You end up taking over the government.
Yes, I do.
Strunzy.
It's a great story, and it's a true story, and we luckily got our hands. Obviously, it's been around for 300 years, and nobody ever managed to do a play or a film about it. And I think that Nikolai did a fantastic job. The beauty of it is that we're not forcing a love story into the story because it was there. From letters and from diaries, we can see it was a storming relationship. It was not a political alliance. So that is a gift, obviously, for a filmmaker. And the whole political theme as well was extreme. It was something radical for that time.
The Enlightenment.
Yeah.
And very early on.
Yeah.
Even before we got around to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the question there is how this character, who it starts out very sympathetic and very advanced in his ideas, becomes corrupted by power. It's a
Disaster coming up.
that's fun too.
I guess I'm not smoking then. Well, you said it. It's corrupted by power. Not necessarily something he planned, but it does blindfold you to a certain degree once you get almighty power, and that's what he gets. He believes he's doing stuff for the benefit of the people, and he ends up having the people against him, and he has no idea why. He forgot to listen. He forgot to see them, and I guess that's the moral of every good dictator you ever seen. They start out with beautiful visions, and all of a sudden, they're not working anymore.
So one of my favorite filmmakers that you've worked with several times is Susanne Bier.
Yeah.
How is it different working for a woman director?
I have no idea. I mean, she's just one of the boys for me. And she is a little tomboy in many ways, even though she's very feminine. I've never addressed that. In my world, I try not to divide it like that. I mean, there is a different energy. Obviously, she has a different perspective that I would have, but a lot of directors have that. And when she says blue, and I I say red, we might mean the same thing, but we're using different words. Right? But she's just a very focused worker, and she doesn't think about being a woman, I guess. She's a director.
Would it be fair, and this is a question of mine not having seen all of your Danish films, would it be fair to say that you started out as a more physically active actor and that when you worked with her, she brought out more of you and pulled out more dimensions?
No, not really. I mean, I think I started out with Nicholas Refn, and even though there are some brutal characters, we also did a film called Bleeder together at the beginning of our careers, and I was a very held-back little shy man that works in a video store. Actually, I was just playing Nicholas in real life, and so no, I think that I've always been very inspired by, as I said before, this period in the 70s where people could be extreme and very internal. To do both, I found that super interesting for filmmaking. So I think that was something we worked with from the very beginning.
And one of the things you've done is you've worked in several different languages, and very effectively so. But when you work in a foreign language, is that a challenge, and is it exciting and liberating again to be back in your own language?
Both. It is a challenge. It's the beginning is always uphill. There's a lot of it's a hat you have to wear, and the hat you cannot think about the hat. It's just supposed to be there, right? But obviously it's not just there when you don't speak the language fluently. You have to rehearse. And once you start shooting, you have to forget it. So wherever you picked up during the rehearsal is there, but you can't think about it while you're shooting. So it's just a craft you have to put on, and some languages are easier than others.
Russian?
Russian is not that easy. But as I said before, there is some character in there as well. There's a free gift in there because you all of a sudden you separate yourself from yourself because you're all of a sudden somebody else who's speaking a foreign language, right? So that's an interesting process as well. But yes, then it's kind of a relief coming back home doing it in your own native tongue. And very interesting so because I had to speak other languages and I can't speak as fast as I want to in foreign languages. It turned out that when I came home, I was maybe a little more widespread in my own language. I could do stuff I would not have done before in my own language because I went out and did it in foreign language, and all of a sudden I would never have done that in Danish because I have an identity in my own language, but all of a sudden I could see other identities in Danish, which was a very helpful process for me, I guess.
One of the reasons that I have a great deal of admiration for you is because you survived one of the worst movies I've ever seen, Clash of the Titans. You were so great in that movie, even though the movie was so horrible. At least I thought so.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people think so. I mean, it is what it is. It's a popcorn film, and I guess it works to a certain degree there. I think we all start out with great ambitions, and sometimes you just can't.
People don't set out to make bad movies.
Exactly, and sometimes it just doesn't turn out like that. I enjoyed watching it, and I knew we had problems during shooting it, and I could see them. But then again, I was enjoying looking at my friends and seeing that they put in a lot of effort.
But you had fun. It looked like you had fun.
We had enormous fun doing that.
You were being the warrior. You were being the hero.
I mean, it was obviously for me that was the first time I was working with green screen creatures on that level, and I think it was the first time for a lot of us. And then we had Sam Worthington, who just spent I think a year doing Avatar,
right.
So when we were charging these giant scorpions, you just saw Sam in front screaming ballistic at something that wasn't there, and we all went like, well, that's the way to do it then. And it was funny, and we had great fun doing it, and hopefully there are some kids out there that enjoyed the film as well.
So what is the film that you just completed?
The film I just completed is an artwork in the sense that it's actually it's a commercial for the internet in 8 episodes of a kind of a agent/transporter film that's taking place as a road movie in 8 different countries all over Europe. So it was a rock and roll process where we did everything you normally don't do in a commercial, and then we tried to make it into some kind of a feature film.
Who directed it?
It's Ascolet. He is well known for doing documentaries, and he's done one American film. But he's a youngster, I call him. He's 40. He's got his base in documentary, and very interesting character.
So, do you think that the fact that your first feature film was at age 30 had made you approach your career in a very different? I know you don't think of it as a career; you think of it as a movie that you choose, but made you approach the work in a different way.
I guess so. I mean, if you today we have all these programs where you can become famous overnight from singing or dancing or just being yourself in a room. And I think that there is a certain danger to the process if you're 17 years old and a lot of people come walking up to you in the street and say, you're awesome, you're the best. And I think when you're 17, you start believing that you might be God, and it's not working like that. And I realized really fast that I could sit in a bar one day and that girl, she didn't speak to me. The next day she would speak to me. So it's simple to do the math. And I think that if you're 30, you do the math a little easier than if you're 17. So for me, it was all about the work from the very beginning. And it might have been different if I was 18.
What was the mechanism by which you did make your first feature? I mean, how did you make that transition from being a dancer to?
Well, I joined the drama school for 4 years. So I was gone from the stage for 4 years. And then on my last year, Nicholas called me and asked if I wanted to do an audition for his first feature film, Pusher. So it just came out of the blue in many ways. But yeah, I graduated as 30 years old for that film. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. This has been a pleasure.
Likewise.